All the fans forum last night, how did that go?
Yeah, I think it went okay. Yeah, it was good. Some really sensible questions, and it was good to, I suppose, to talk really, basically. And any
A young player that played for Republic of Ireland, one of their junior teams, in the last week. There's quite a lot going on beneath the surface, isn't there?
There is, yeah, and I think obviously that's important for any club to be successful. Yes, we want to see immediate success out on the pitch every single weekend, but there's a lot of hard work that goes into being able to have a football club that's got a model that sort of produces and develops their own players.
Just going off a bit of a tangent, but this week we've seen, in non-league football, we've seen a manager stand down because of racist incidents at a game. I don't know if you see what happened in Portugal when the player tried to come off and his teammates sort of stopped him coming off after he was abused. I just wonder whether you've thought through as a manager, if something happened to one of your players, which is possible, what you would do as a team and what you'd do to support that player, whether it was immediately or afterwards.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely no doubts whatsoever. At the end of the day, if the player felt that strongly about it, then he would be off the pitch, no problem at all. It's difficult enough as it is, depending on obviously the amount of fans that are at whatever stadium you're playing at. There's a pressure on all the players, all the managers, etc. To take that type of abuse is just unacceptable. I
still find it incredible. I mean, I can think back to the pictures of John Barnes in the 80s, to still think that we're talking about it now.
Absolutely, yeah. And as it improved, I think there was probably a period where it did improve, but all of a sudden it's reared its ugly head again, and the quicker it stamps out, the better.
When we talk about last week and Accrington, it struck me you were very angry when we spoke to you after the game, very disappointed. How difficult is the balance when you're talking about, you talked in general terms about players. You don't want to hang them out to dry because you've still got games to come, but at the same time you want to let fans know that you see what they see.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, you're trying to be as honest as you possibly can, like you say, without being too brutal. I think you can be a little bit more brutal behind, not closed doors, but you're certainly in between four walls. Whatever I say in the dressing room should stay in the dressing room, and vice versa with the players. And it just wasn't a time for me straight after the game to say things to the players, because I definitely would have said the wrong thing because my emotions were running high at the time. So I had a much more measured approach with the players on Monday. We sat down as a group. Discussed the game. I think when you watch the game back, as I have 3 times now, I still, to this moment now, can't get my head around how we lost the game, if I'm being brutally honest with you. I know why we lost the game, but I still can't get my head around it. So they're the type of frustrations you get as a manager. We just have to stamp out some of the errors that we're making at the minute. We're definitely creating opportunities, previous to that, Rotherham game, MK Dons game. So that's not a worry at all. It's just making sure that we stay 100% concentrated.
And do you think Michael Appleton, the manager, when he started out, would have perhaps been more likely to have said something, and it's a sign of experience that you count to 10 and think about it?
Oh God, yeah, when I first started out, yeah, probably would have started a fight in the dressing room, but God, no, yeah, it's one of them, people talk to me about that all the time, that side of it, because as a player I was a hell of a lot more aggressive than what I am now as a manager. That's probably got a bit of that to do with age. Obviously I had to finish early because of the injury, but the reality is you are managing people, and you're leading people, and you've got to be measured sometimes, because it's just not about an individual, it's about the group. You've got to keep the group in a good frame of mind. We've still got a job to do this year, obviously I'm more than aware of that, and so are the players, and I need to keep them in the right frame of mind.
Football seems to have moved away, I'm going to another tangent, but football seems to have moved away from sort of signing players on high. I've known previous managers who'd get the old Rothmans out, look at 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", and sign them all. But at the same time, do you look at your current squad and think, looking forward to next season, you might be a somewhat bigger team, certainly dealing with set pieces and those sorts of things?
Yeah, to be fair, we haven't actually conceded that many from set pieces over the time being here. I think obviously it just gets highlighted a little bit just because of the squad, so every time we concede one, it's because they're too small. They are too small, don't get it wrong, 100%, and part of the remit for January was identifying players of a certain height and size, but they just weren't available. You know, and that's the point I think we were trying to make about January. January's more of a low market. We feel very fortunate to be able to do the likes of Teo as a permanent, Max Melbourne as a permanent, Anthony Scully as a permanent, knowing that you're not really going to do much more than that, and if you do, you're very, very lucky. It is a low market, but the summer's a very different animal altogether because, you know, players' contracts are up in the summer, and there will be decent players that come available of a certain size and stature, which is great. But if they can't play the way I want to play, then we won't be signing them.
And just to repeat something you said on the forum last night, and that's a similar question, but I'm conscious some people might not have heard it. In terms of the existing players at this squad, any conversation about a contract with them is effectively on hold until we know for sure that the club is where it's going to be.
Absolutely, 100%, yeah, definitely.
Gillingham, I mean, and obviously you were disappointed last week, but I think probably the most disappointed stroke angry I've seen you was probably away at Gillingham earlier in the season, a game that frankly Lincoln didn't turn up in the first half. You know, do you feel you owe them one? Is it not quite that simple?
Well, I feel that we owe them one, but hopefully the players do, you know, and they'll be the ones that have to take the game on. All I would say is that the actual team on Saturday will be quite a bit different to the team that started at Gillingham, so it's always difficult to replicate and try and do something about it. All I would say is that, you know, for as frustrated as we've been of late and losing the 5 games, we've been pretty competitive and certainly deserved a lot more points than we've picked up over the last 6 games. You know, the 1 point really doesn't really reflect the performances. Getting beat at Gillingham and losing the 3 points reflected the performance on the day. So hopefully that we can apply ourselves in the right way and put a decent performance on. I know the 14 games unbeaten takes some doing to do that. They've obviously got a good way about them, a good spirit. Obviously very, very direct and controlled in what they do, but I do believe we can beat him. And
Steve Evans is a manager that gets a lot of things said about him, but he certainly knows how to put together a team, doesn't he?
Yeah, listen, he's got a way, he's got a style. It's not for everybody, it's not for me, but as a manager, I've got the utmost respect for all the managers I've come up against. We all do it different ways and we've all got different personalities. But yeah, you know, like I say, it works for him. It's not for everybody, but you know, ultimately you've got to stick to your style.
And you know what's happening? There's a player coming back as well, which is always, is it as big a nightmare for you as a manager? I think fans instinctively just think, oh, they're going to play well against us.
Yeah, I think probably because it's so soon. Yeah, I think the reality is football everywhere up and down the country. There'll be players playing against their recent teams or old teams, but I think obviously with Johnny such a big specimen, I'm sure he'll be absolutely chomping at the bit to do well tomorrow, and we've just got to make sure we play the game and play him and know what his strengths and weaknesses are and try to deal with them.
And on the injury suspension front, Rusty Joe out for one more game. Anything else on the injury front?
We've got a couple of 50-50s that we're a little bit worried about at this moment in time. I'm hoping they get through today's session. We've got a couple of lads who might not be able to train today, and I'll give them as much time as I can tomorrow, but obviously, you know, we've got to start thinking towards the game.
And just finally from me, after the game, the boxing, are you watching, or are you going for Wilder or Fury?
Well, obviously, I'm massively in Fury's camp. Too far, I hope he knocks him out. You know, but yeah, listen, it's going to be one humdinger of a fight, isn't it? I just hope he boxes like he did in the first fight, because he was obviously brilliant. You know, he's shown a proper boxing school. Just stay away from that right hand.
Thank you.
All right, Michael. You mentioned about the summer window, how you're looking at that and strengthening your squad. In terms of the aspirations for this season, where does that stand? Have you got like a points target you want to hit?
Not necessarily a points target. I think it would be a good thing for the football club to try and finish higher than the other promoted teams. I think that has to be the first target. Obviously Tranmere are where they are at the minute, but obviously MK Dons as well. I know they've got a couple of games in hand on us, but if we can finish higher than them, it's a sign of progress to a certain degree, only a small but a certain degree, and just literally try and win as many games as you possibly can. I think first and foremost, after the spell that we've had, it's about winning the next game really.
And obviously you've got Gillingham coming up this week. You said last week that you weren't that happy with some of the performances of some of your senior players. How's the response you've seen on the training ground this week?
It's been great, and to be fair, I think the majority of the time when I've done that and I've questioned them, it has been good. I think if you do it in the right manner, in the right way, they've got no comeback. Do you know what I mean? You know, you have to ask questions of players, and we certainly did that this week. And like I say, I didn't have any doubts they would, but yeah, they certainly backed it up with the performance this week in training.
And obviously back at the LNER this week. Obviously we've struggled away from home a bit this season. What do you think the difference? Because the home form's been pretty good. What do you think the reason for that is?
Well, to be fair, the support's magnificent, so that certainly helps when they get behind us. You know, you've only got to go back to that Christmas period. Some of the atmospheres of the game was electrifying. If we can somehow replicate that type of atmosphere and stay positive and get behind the players, it's going to give us a massive opportunity to win games between now and the end of the season.
And obviously just finally with John Akinde's coming back as a manager, do you think it gives you an advantage that you know his game, or do you think it will be different because he almost feels like he's got a point to prove?
Well, he'll definitely have a point to prove, there's no doubt about that. I think any player leaving the club and going back to his old club, he'll have a point to prove, there's no doubt about it. We've just got to try and play our normal game, try and shut him out. We know that he's got some very good strengths, and but we also know he's got weaknesses as well, so we need to make sure that we try and nullify his best part of the game as easy as we possibly can.
Excellent stuff, thank you very much, mate.
Junior takeover day tomorrow at the ground, so you've got a young manager alongside you. What will you be saying to the young man, or what little advice will you be giving him?
Well, probably the first little bit of advice is to put his hands over his ears when I speak to the players before the game. I suppose it's the best advice I can give is do what as I say. Sorry, what's the phrase?
Do I say what?
Yeah, not what I do, exactly, yeah. So, no, I've had it before and it's been brilliant. I had a young chap come in when I was at Oxford one day, and he was brilliant, he was hilarious. And he gave a fantastic team talk to the players, to be fair. Very short and sharp, but they certainly understood. So, no, I mean, it's good, it's great experience for these young guys to come in and see a little bit how it works on a match day. It's a little bit chaotic, and they probably don't realise that, you know, when they just turn up to the game and watch the match. So hopefully you'll get a great insight to what happens.
Thank you.
Someone when I talk to players who have only been here a few months, I usually ask about settling in, but I don't really need to for you. It must be like literally being back home the last few months.
Yeah, in that respect, it's been nice in terms of knowing the area, and obviously not having to sort of worry about too much about that sort of side of things. But I think it's still obviously got to be a settling in period in terms of the football, and sort of getting used to the club. So, it's not a club I've played at before, and obviously people I don't know and staff, players. So case of that, but I think that's been quite smooth, and obviously it's a very welcoming club, and so I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
And a lot of people have talked coming to Lincoln about Michael Appleton being an attraction. Was that the same for you, and has that proved what you've heard about him? Has that proved to be the case?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think when before I came, when I sort of asked people about the manager, and everyone came back and said, great coach, someone will improve you. And I think when I spoke to him as well, and that was something that was portrayed as well, and something I'm already seeing evidence of on the training pitch. So
what's it like going back to former clubs? Because we've got Johnny Kinde coming here. You had the same experience at Southend just a couple of weeks ago. What's that like as a player?
To be honest, it's the first time it's ever happened for me, especially with it been happening so quickly since coming here. I think I went about it. It was a learning curve. Let's put it that way. I sort of tried to be so sort of relaxed in the fact that I'm not going to let any of it bother me. And I think I probably took focus away from the game that day. So yeah, it was a big learning curve, and there's something that hopefully will happen again.
So is it easy for a player to let it become more than it needs to be?
I think so, and I think you've got obviously people around. They'll say, "Oh, he's back at your old club," and that and I think you can get hung up on that. I think quite a bit, and you sort of forget what you're there to do, because you're trying so hard to not make anything of it and try and be so relaxed and or want to prove a point, and you forget, you lose your focus on the pitch. So yeah, like I said, it was a learning curve, and something that if it ever happened again, I'll be ready to do.
And what about for yourself? You've had some starts, you've had some time on the bench as well. Has that been a bit frustrating not to have a consistent sort of start?
Look, I think when I came in, performances didn't warrant starting. I'm honest enough to sort of admit to that. But I feel like last Saturday was back to sort of what was expected of me and where I felt good in the game, and hopefully now that's something I can build on.
And obviously as a team you didn't want to concede as many goals as you did last week, but it was some game to be there as a journalist and watching. It was it was a bit like basketball really turned football.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, like you say, we scored 3 goals and obviously unfortunately conceded 4, but I think that's again something that we need to improve on in terms of game management, and sort of look, the conditions didn't help, but it was the same for both teams, and something when I think if we do go up, we need to then sort of take a sting out of the game, and as a group I think that's something we'll improve on over time, but we need to try and sort of make that improve rather quickly.
You took a bit of a smack on the side of the head, I think it was, and you looked a bit like a mummy towards the moment you were coming off. What happened?
Just cut my head open, so a few stitches into that, but that's no problem. It's part of the course almost. The way I like to go about my business on the pitch. So that's not an issue, and stitches will be out soon enough, and it's not going to hold me back in any way. And
do you feel like you're getting to know the team, because there's a lot of new faces all coming in at the same time?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said before, it's a good group to come into. I feel like I can get on well with everyone, and learning each other's games, is a key part to that, and I feel that's something I've done over the last couple of weeks, if not more. So I think that's only going to help and develop as time goes on.
Gillingham on a decent unbeaten run, moving up the table. They're there for the taking, aren't they? It's the sort of thing that if you need the incentive, you've got it there.
Yeah. Every unbeaten run has to come to an end at some point, and hopefully we'll be able to do that. But look, Gillingham are a good outfit, and they know what they're about, and as a manager, Steve Evans, he's what his teams are going to be. They're going to be resolute. They'll be hard to beat. They'll be competitive, and that's something we've got to stand up to. And we're looking forward to the challenge.
I was going to say, actually, just thinking about it, being a Boston boy, you must have gone and watched a few of Steve Evans' teams over the years when you were a kid, weren't you?
Yeah, I used to play against his son as well in sort of the local mid-links. So obviously I'm well aware of him, and it'd be nice to sort of to win on Saturday.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thanks.
Tom, I think in the past there was interest from the club in you. What was it this time that made you want to make the move here?
I think obviously seeing the club has grown over sort of since that original sort of conversations took place. The club's in a very different position as it was a couple of years ago. And I think sort of football's a lot about timing, and that opportunity came and to sort of revisit that. you know, and then having sat down with sort of the people at the club, the management, you know, it was a move I was keen to make, you know, purely on the sort of ambition of the club, and the club that's grown in stature on and off the pitch over the last 2 years as well.
And there was obviously that big buzz. We've had a few promotions in a few years. Are you still feeling that buzz around the club?
Yeah, definitely. But you know, also I think, you know, this year's obviously been a bit different, I imagine, for the fans, because you know, it's sort of not been a promotion challenge in that respect, compared to what it probably has been the last couple of years. But you know, I think, like you say, there's been changes throughout the club, and so you know, it's a case of finding our feet again. You know, and you know, I think it's look, we do have ambitions, obviously, to progress again. But you know, it's football's not as simple as that. You know, there's going to be times where it sort of peaks and troughs almost, and so it's a case of just riding it out, and you know, keep aiming to do the right things, and hopefully we'll come through that.
And obviously you've not quite found the back of the net yet. Is that something that weighs on your mind, or?
No, I was actually speaking with Terry about that yesterday. You know, it's over the years, it's not something that, you know, let bother me, because I know if my game is right on a personal level, then the goals will come. So it's not something that I'd let bother me, because you know, I know I can do it, and I know once the chances will come, I'll be there to take them. So
what are your aims then for the rest of the season with Lincoln?
I think on a personal level, you know, try and finish strong. You know, get my performances where I want them to be, and I think with that will come everything else. You know, I'm feeling a lot more comfortable. I think Saturday showed that on the pitch, and you know, I think now just got a case of building on that. And as a club, I think, you know, try and put a little run together. You know, pick up some wins and see where that takes us.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much, mate.
Tom, mid-season move this time as a professional. Do you see that's more difficult than moving in the summer period?
I think so. You know, I think because obviously in the summer you get that sort of period of pre-season where you are sort of getting to know everyone, and you get to sort of accustomed to everyone without any pressure of matches. And in January you sort of, I think especially as a January signing, you want to come in and hit the ground running and have an impact. But that doesn't always happen. So it's just it's a case of getting up to speed as quick as possible, and you know, making sure that you sort of get your sort of performances to where you want them to be.
Thank you very much.